Hi everybody, this is Wakes with Wakes Emporium. I just wanted to make a video going over and talking about supporting your models, supports, and how to do them, specifically in regards to my stuff, but obviously this is going to pertain to anybody who does printing of 3D models or miniatures or whatever. So the first thing I want to say is, let me take down my logo here, is that I use the slicer I use is going to be Chitobox, but you might use a different slicer. I don't actually. I have grown to like Chitobox and I use it. However, I think there's at least two other slicers that you can use for resin 3D printing, and I'm going to assume they're going to have a similar layout, but everything might not be the same. However, I'm hoping that they'll have at least some of the same features. So you can see I've actually got some of my cavalry here. These guys are going to be released hopefully this weekend, hopefully, but by this month, and is going to be the start of my Patreon Wakes Emporium. Now it's going to be centered around small scale miniatures, anything from 6mm to 15mm, and it's going to have quite a different, wide array of things going on from fantasy to sci-fi to historicals. This first release is going to be a whole lot of they're sci-fi, like Imperial British-based, mostly infantry and support weapons. That'll be posted on my Facebook and my other social media outlets. However, I have some of their cavalry. So when I brought them in, or I should talk about the first thing, the main thing I'm going to talk about, and this is probably the most important thing, is that you're going to have to adjust your settings to what you want them to be. Now, I have mine very specifically to facilitate 6mm printing, and I really recommend these settings. Like this is not the normal Chitobox support settings. I've gone and changed everything. I've made the light settings a whole lot thinner for Chitobox, and I've changed medium a little bit. I don't think I messed with heavy, but basically I made it so that the small supports are very, very tiny, and this allows me to support, because my models are kind of complex, especially for 6mm. They're fairly complex, and they require a lot of support in a lot of different areas. So the best way to do that is to have supports that are as small or just a bit smaller than the smallest piece of the models. Because I use a specific diameter that I keep everything to, that I don't go below, so that it can retain itself in 6mm. Now, again, you can just copy. I have my settings here. You can, pause the video and copy these settings in your own Chitobox if you like. While I'm talking, I'll just leave these on for a little bit and then go to the next thing. Because there's a top, there's a middle, and there's a bottom. And again, I'm not sure if other slicers allow this, but I think this is an important thing to change around for specifically my models in 6mm, and perhaps other people if you're printing other 6mm miniatures, because of how small everything is. If you have a miniature that has supports bigger than the details on the model, it's going to be a little bit of an issue to support or support well. So that's the main thing here. The other thing I would say is, based on the way the resin printer prints out and these supports, its supports look a little intimidating. You look at this and you're like, oh, geez, I don't want to sit there and cut that. Well, actually, they can just rip away. I often just, I'll be careful about it, but especially with like for instance, this lance, I would probably, when I'm supporting this guy, I'll probably just come in here with some snips, snip the two longer sections that support it, and maybe this part, and then the rest of this can really just be ripped away from the supports, especially if you use the settings that I like on my resin printer. Now, there's a huge caveat here, and that's resin printing can be you can there's a wide variety of settings that you can do, which is another reason why sports are kind of interesting. And I normally like people to do their own sports because there's so much that can go on. Like my resin printer, I like to cure my stuff. It's a little bit soft. I don't like rock hard resin when I'm curing, and some people like curing their stuff to a hard resin. That's going to be completely the way you support that, and other things are going to be completely different than the way I de-support mine. I leave my stuff. My cure time is not very long, and then I don't do any post curing. It leaves it to a little bit of it's kind of rubbery, and then it's very malleable. And in that way, I can really most of the time just rip off sports. I'll probably do a video about that another time. But and I think I have some other videos talking about how it's very you look like bend a whole spear and it won't break. But I digress. That is, it's gonna come down to your personal preference and the settings you use, and you just got to know, what your resin printer is capable of, and other things. And the other thing I don't just if you're gonna use these settings, not only are you if you're gonna use these settings, but really on my models in general at their base scale, I really recommend a layer height of 0.01. The most detailed layer height you can get on like a photon, for instance, and most of the other one like a Lego Mars. So I highly recommend that. And for these support settings, it's pretty much necessary. If you don't do that, a lot of these supports will probably fail. Like if you print at 0.05, these support settings will probably fail. So it's just going to be up to you to decide what you want to do and how you accomplish that. Now, for especially for the Patreon, I'm going to support a lot of these models. I don't know if I'll support all my models in the future because there's going to be a high output, but a lot of things I'm going to intend to support for the Patreon. However, if I'm also going to include models that aren't supported, and you might want to support those yourself if you have especially if you're going to scale these up. This isn't really necessary. This amount of supports and all this other stuff. You might want to change that a little bit. Like if you're going to do a 15 millimeter, this is maybe a little overkill. Things like this. So it just really comes down to what you're doing, your personal preference. So these are just some examples of guys that I've got pre-supported. I just came in here and worked on these guys. But I'll show you what you do, the easiest way to support stuff in Shadowbox if you don't have supports already done. So I've got one of my Satoda here. And the best way to do this is I usually come in, you're going to want to see, look at the model and see what the best facing for supports is. Generally, it's going to be the one with like the least contacts, but most of the time you can just go 45 degrees from the back. Like this guy looks pretty good at 33 degrees. He's going to have some issues, like for instance, the back of his helmet and the antenna are kind of an issue. But you're going to see, we're just going to support those. That's going to be what's going on. Now, the other thing I would take into consideration here is his gun. I might want to even bring this back further because right now we're going to have to support the gun because of how close to level it is. But I'm more worried about his helmet than his gun, so we're just going to end up supporting that. Now, the thing I would say is you can bring in more than one figure, bring in a bunch of figures here that you all want to support, and just go to the Select All button, and then you come over to your support section, and you come down here to this plus all. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow Shadowbox to do and you're going to want to be on light here, especially with the, if you've done the settings that I want you to do here. You're going to want to be on light, and then you're going to hit plus all. And what this is going to do is Shadowbox is going to try and support the model as best it can automatically. It's going to miss some stuff, and that's the key thing here. Is it's going to miss some stuff, but it's going to get most of it. So we're going to hit all, and you can see it's kind of, whacked a bunch of supports on here. And from looking at it, I think it's actually pretty good. It got both the back of the helmet and the antenna. Some things you might want to do is you might want to come in here and if it really bugs you, get rid of, maybe adjust this piece or get rid of it. This is the kind of thing that if you want to, you can come in. I generally don't like having these little sections like this because you're not going to come in here and cut this, or it's going to be hard. You're going to end up ripping off a helmet or something. So I either get rid of those or adjust that. Now this guy might be hard to get rid of. I'll probably end up just moving it like that. So that'll work, and will be easier to get rid of. You still might, you're going to end up kind of screwing up the backpack a little bit, but it's a little better. And the other thing I will do is that is a better, it's more conducive to support. His other heel is good. This guy's actually pretty good, to be honest with you. I am just going to add 2 more light supports to the gun. Okay, and then the other thing that is key here on most of my models that Shitbox seems to never, or you're gonna have to do anyway, is and I gotta go overkill support to be honest with you because these, especially if they're native scale, the models just aren't that big, and you're just not gonna be using a lot of resin to support them, even if you go ham on the sports. And I'd rather have an over supported model than an under supported one. But the other thing I it's really necessary actually if you're going to use the light supports to the settings I have, is you're going to want to go in there and go in medium, and then add a bunch to the base. Oh, a bunch. I mean, you could probably get away with two, but I like a little overkill on that. And then anything that's like super heavy, this model doesn't have anything like that. But like on bigger models that you're still intending to print at 6 millimeter, or things that have like really large sections that aren't on the base, that don't stem directly from the base, I would also support with a medium. But again, that's up to you and what your preferences are and what you decide to do. But this guy should print just fine, just like this. He'll print just fine. I mean, you can play around with the this little bit here, add more if you like, do all kinds of stuff. But this guy's going to be fine as long as your printer settings are good and where you want them to be. Everything should be good to go. Again, but this is, keep in mind, 0.01 layer height, especially for my models at native scale. That's the important thing. If you're going to print at 15 millimeter, obviously it's a totally different ball game. Things will change. But I think that's what I wanted to cover here. I think if I, so obviously I'm just going to go through these real quick, and you can pause the video and copy my settings if you need to. But for light, here are my, okay, so this is top, middle, and bottom of the actual support. I don't think I changed the bottoms on any of these, but I'll just go through it real quick and show you on that one. Top, middle, bottom. Now, of course, like I said, and I don't think I changed heavy at all. But like I said, this is most of my stuff, especially for the Patreon. It's going to be pre. Most of it should be pre-supported, especially like my welcome pack that I intend to add to over the coming months is all going to be pre-supported. And then as long as like I don't have, I might go a little ham some months and do quite a lot. So we'll see how that works out. But most of it's going to be intended to pre-supported. And I hope this video answers some questions. I'll do some more videos in regards to like resin printing settings, although that one's a little bit more, that depends on what kind of resin you have, your actual printer, there's a lot that goes into that. So, but I'll do more videos on settings and trying to get stuff the right way. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, and have a great day, and look out for my Patreon. Hopefully come and join. I'm trying to pay rent. Oh, thanks. Have a nice day.